What's up, everybody? This is John with CompTIA Study. Today we're going to be doing 30 practice questions for A+ Core 1. We're not going to waste any time at all. We're going to get right into the test. Let's get into it. Question number 1. What does ECC stand for in memory technology? This is a memorization question. You need to memorize this stuff for the test regardless. Give you guys 3 seconds to think about it. And the answer would be C, error correcting code. There's a lot of acronyms on A+ Core 1 that you need to know. Keep that in mind before you go into your test. Let's move on. Question number 2. Which type of RAM is commonly used in modern desktop computers? I will give you guys 3 seconds to think. And the answer would be B, DDR4. Of course, we do have DDR5 now, which is becoming more and more popular, but for the time being, DDR4 is the most commonly used type of RAM in modern desktop computers. Question number 3. What is the primary function of a graphics processing unit, or GPU? Give you guys 3 seconds to think about it. And as the name suggests, process graphics and video. That is the function of a GPU. It handles things like video data, graphics when you play games, so on and so forth. Question number 4. After replacing a CPU, the system posts successfully but runs significantly slower than expected. CPU Z shows the processor is running at 800 MHz instead of 3.6 GHz. What is the most likely cause? I will give you guys a second to think about it. And the answer in this case would be C. The XMP/Expo profile is not enabled and the CPU is in power saving state due to thermal throttling from improper cooler seating. The reason that the computer does this is solely to protect itself. Much like a car, if your car is overheating, you might go into limp mode, so on and so forth. It has the same function. Let's move on. Question number 5. What is the primary advantage of an SSD over an HDD? Give you guys a moment. And the answer would be B, faster access times. SSDs have faster read speeds, write speeds than the predecessor HDD, aka hard disk drive. Of course, it's still used in certain applications to this day, but as time goes on, it's becoming more and more obsolete. Let's move on. Question number 6. Which type of cooling is most effective for high performance CPUs? I'll give you guys a second to think about it. And the answer would be B, liquid cooling. Thermal pads only won't do anything to cool your computer. Passive air cooling is not sufficient. Active air cooling is perfectly fine for most applications, but for high performance CPUs, you want liquid cooling as the most effective at dissipating heat from the CPU. Question number 7. What is the purpose of standoffs in computer assembly? And the answer would be A, prevent electrical shorts. When you go to take your A+ Core 1, you need to know what each part in the computer does confidently when you walk into the test room. Even silly little things that you may forget about. Standoffs, they might ask a question just like this one when you go take your test, so keep that in mind when you go forward with your studies. Question number 8. Which connector type is commonly used for SATA drives? Give you a second to think. And the answer would be SATA. Yes, this one seems straightforward, but it is not the case for every item that you will find on the test. Of course, if you come to CompTIAstudy.io and you go to our guide section, we have every little acronym, every function of every part, all put in a convenient guide for you. But regardless, let's move on to the next question. Question number 9. Which storage device typically offers the fastest data access speeds? I'll give you a second to think about it. And the answer would be SSD. As I said before, hard drive is older technology than the SSD, and as I said before, it doesn't have the same read and write speeds as a solid state drive. These two are not typically used unless it's a special application, so we have to go with solid state drive. Question number 10. Which component converts AC power to DC power from computer components? Give you a moment to think. And the answer would be D, your power supply unit. This is the part of your computer that receives the power from your wall and sends the electricity after converting it to all the parts within your computer. Question number 11. A system has 4 RAM slots and is running 2 8GB DDR4 3200 sticks in dual channel. A technician adds 2 more 8GB DDR4 2666 sticks. What will most likely happen to memory speed? This one's a little more tricky. I'll give you guys a moment. And the answer would be all 4 sticks will run at DDR4 2666. When there are slower sticks added to a system that also has faster RAM sticks, what the computer does is it will throttle these sticks to match the speed of the slower stick to make sure that everything is optimized, because obviously these sticks cannot run at the same speed, so it has to be done in order for the computer to work properly. Let's move on. A technician is building a workstation and needs ECC RAM. Which of the following is the correct statement about ECC support? Once again, a little bit more nuanced. I'll give you guys a second to think. Okay, and the answer would be C. ECC RAM requires both a CPU and motherboard that specifically support ECC. This is more of just knowing the compatibility of certain parts with certain things. It is a common theme on the A+ Core 1. Once again, we have all this information in our guides on our website, CompTIA.io. Regardless, let's move forward. Question number 13. What does DIMM stand for in computer memory? Give you guys a moment to think about it. And the answer would be D, dual inline memory module. There is a lot of acronyms you need to know when you walk into the testing room. This is one of them among many. It is all found in our guides on CompTIAstudy.io. If you want a convenient chart that shows you everything you need to know as far as memorization, what parts do, what each acronym stands for, it can all be found in our guides section on our website. Question number 14. A GPU installed in a PCIe X16 slot is only detected as X8 in Device Manager. The card and slot both physically support X16. What is the most likely cause? And the most likely cause in this situation would be A. On most systems, when there's multiple devices plugged into PCIe, what the computer will do will partition the PCIe to only allow a certain number of slots to be delegated to other devices apart from one that is already connected. Let's move on. Question number 15. Which interface is faster, SATA 3 or NVMe? Give you a moment to think about it. And the answer, of course, is NVMe. NVMe is the newest technology when it comes to storage on computers. It is faster. It's also very low profile. If you've ever built a computer yourself, you'll know that the NVMe's are tiny. Let's move on. Question number 16. Which component determines the maximum amount of RAM a system can support? Give you a moment to think about it. And the answer would be A, the motherboard. Obviously, the motherboard is where the RAM plugs into in any system. So there is a physical limitation in how much RAM can actually be plugged into the computer. So that would be A, the motherboard. Question number 17, a memory question. Which form factor is smaller, mini ITX or micro ATX? Give you a moment to think. And of course, the answer would be mini ITX. This is a smaller form factor than micro ATX. This is just memorization. What is the order of the size of different form factors? Let's move on. Question number 18. What does BIOS stand for? Another acronym you must memorize when you go into the test room. Give you a moment to think. And the answer would be D. Basic Input Output System. This is strictly memory. And if you're curious, the BIOS is the firmware that initializes hardware during the boot process. Let's move on. What is the function of a heat sink? This one's pretty straightforward. I'll let you think. And the answer would be B, to dissipate the heat away from components like the CPU or GPU, because you do not want your computer to overheat. So this part prevents that from happening. Let's move on. Question number 20. Which component is responsible for managing data flow between the CPU and other components? And the answer would be A. A large part of the test is knowing what does what in a system. So you want to know this off the top of your head when you walk into the test room. Once again, I can't stress it enough. We have all this information conveniently placed into charts in our guide section on our website. Regardless, let's move on. Question number 21. What is the purpose of thermal paste on a CPU? Give you a second to think about it. And the answer would be D. Improve heat transfer. You put the thermal paste on your CPU before you put the heatsink on, and this helps to conduct the heat between the two parts so that way your CPU can stay cool. Let's move on. Question number 22. A technician installs two identical DDR4 sticks into a motherboard, but benchmarks show single channel performance. The motherboard manual shows slots labeled A1, A2, B1, B2. Which slot configuration correctly enables dual channel? This one is a little bit more nuanced. I will give you guys a moment to think about it. And in this case, the answer would be B, A1 and B1. The reason for this, if you look at 90% of manuals for motherboards, there needs to be a parallel system when it comes to just running two RAM sticks versus the optional 4. Like I said, 90% of motherboards will want you to have this exact configuration, A1 and B1, or optionally you could go A2 and B2. You could think of it as 4 slots. You want a gap between whichever two you are running. So that would be A1 and B1 or A2 and B2. Let's move on. Question 23. Which motherboard form factor is the most common for desktop computers? Think about it for a moment. And the answer would be ATX. As mentioned before, mini ITX is the smallest form factor, micro ATX is in between, and then ATX is above. This is important to memorize when you go into the test. Regardless, let's move on. Question 24. What is the standard voltage for DDR4 memory? Give you guys a moment to think. And of course, the answer will be 1.2 volts. This is strictly memorization. We have all the information you need in our guides on our website. We have all the information that you need regarding this type of stuff for the A+ Core 1 in our guide section on our website. Regardless, let's move on. Question 25. Which expansion slot is commonly used for graphics cards? Give you guys a moment to think. And the answer would be C, PCIe X16. These are the most commonly used today for graphics cards in desktop computers. Let's move on. Question number 26. Which storage interface provides the highest bandwidth? Give you guys a moment to think. And the answer would be NVMe PCIe 4.0. This is the latest technology when it comes to storage devices and computers. It vastly outpaces hard drives, vastly outpaces solid state. So this would be the correct answer for this question. Question 27. Which component is responsible for executing instructions in a computer? Think about it for a moment. And the answer would be CPU. This is responsible for executing instructions, doing calculations, things like this in your computer. Let's move on to the next. Question number 28. What does POST stand for in computer terminology? Once again, this is memorization of acronyms, among other things, for A+ Core 1. Think about it for a moment. And the answer would be B, power on self-test. This is strictly memorizing what acronyms mean in A+ Core 1. Question number 29. What type of memory is volatile and loses data when power is removed? Think about it for a moment. And the answer would be RAM. RAM is only used when the computer is turned on. When the computer is off, there's no data running through the RAM. So it is volatile and loses its data when power is removed. And now we're on to our final question for the video. Question number 30. What is the purpose of a CMOS battery? Think about it for a moment. And the answer would be D, maintain the BIOS settings. When the computer is off, the CMOS battery maintains power and the system clock when the computer is off, so that way you are able to boot again after turning the computer off. So that concludes our A+ Core 1 practice for today. Once again, we just focused on the hardware aspect of things, but if you come to CompTIAstudy.io, we cover every single domain that is found on the A+ Core 1. We have Core 2, we have Security Plus, Network Plus, Cloud Plus, 15 total exams that you can study for on our website. We also have PBQs that you will 100% encounter when you go into the testing room for A+ Core 1. I highly recommend that you sign up on the website and you start practicing these PBQs because they are a large portion of the test. And I can't show you everything, of course, because this is for premium users only, but we do have guides for A+ Core 1 as well as Core 2, Security Plus, and Network Plus. And they cover literally everything you need to memorize for the test. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you took something out of it. Do not forget to subscribe. We are going to be uploading more practice exams for Core 1, Core 2, Security Plus, Net Plus, and even tests beyond CompTIA's sphere of testing. Leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you on the next video.